Eleanor and Michael, driven by a mutual desire to escape the relentless pace of London life, stumbled upon the Red Lodge almost by fate. The estate, nestled on the outskirts of a sleepy village in the heart of the countryside, promised them the sanctuary they longed for. Its isolation was a balm, its architectural decay, strangely alluring. They brushed aside the hushed warnings from the locals about the house's dark past, attributing them to rural superstition. The couple saw not a dilapidated structure but a dream waiting to be reborn. The day they moved in was draped in a thick fog, a white shroud that seemed to isolate the Red Lodge from the rest of the world even more. The removal men were uneasy, their discomfort palpable as they hurried to unload the couple's possessions. Eleanor tried to make light of it, offering tea and trying to engage in conversation. But their responses were curt, anxious to leave the property as quickly as possible. As evening descended, the fog grew denser, cloaking the world outside the windows and pressing against the glass with an almost sentient persistence. Inside, the couple worked tirelessly, unpacking boxes and arranging furniture, creating a small oasis of warmth and light in the vast, shadowy rooms. They laughed and shared dreams of what each room would become, their voices echoing slightly too much in the empty spaces. The first sign that something was amiss came as they were preparing for bed. Eleanor, brushing her teeth, thought she heard a whisper, soft and sibilant, just at the edge of her hearing. She paused, listening, but it was gone as quickly as it came. She convinced herself it was just the wind, or the house settling, its old bones creaking in the silence. That night, they slept deeply, exhausted from the move and the emotional weight of beginning a new chapter. Yet, their dreams were filled with unsettling images, dark figures moving in the fog, whispers that seemed to call their names, and a pervasive sense of being watched. The morning brought clarity and sunlight, dispelling the shadows and doubts of the night. They explored their new home in the daylight, finding beauty in the decay. The house was indeed a relic, its once grand features marred by time, but to Eleanor and Michael, it was perfect. They made plans, sketching ideas on old envelopes, their enthusiasm renewed. But as they ventured into the lesser-used parts of the house, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew colder, the light dimmer. In one room, the air felt so heavy, so charged, that they could hardly breathe. The walls were lined with old, peeling wallpaper, and in the center of the room stood a grand piano. Its surface coated in dust except for a single, clean key in the middle octave. It was as if someone, or something, had recently touched it. Deciding they needed a break, they walked into the village for lunch. The reception was frosty, conversations stopped as they entered the pub, and curious, wary eyes followed their every move. The landlord was polite but distant, answering their questions about the house with non-committal grunts. "It's got a long history, has the Red Lodge," he finally said, after a pointed question from Michael. "Not all of it good. People round here, they think it's best left alone." But Eleanor and Michael were undeterred. They believed they could rewrite the narrative of the Red Lodge, dispel the shadows with light and love. They returned to the house with renewed determination, planning to start renovations the next day. That evening, as they settled in the living room, the fire casting flickering shadows on the walls, they heard it again, the whisper, clearer now, almost like a sigh. They looked at each other, an unspoken question passing between them. The air grew cold, a chill that seemed to seep into their bones. Then, the piano played. A single note, clear and sharp in the silence. They froze, listening as the note hung in the air, then faded. The silence that followed was oppressive, a tangible thing. Eleanor and Michael stood, moving together towards the door, compelled by a need to see, to understand. They reached the room with the piano, the door now slightly ajar, though they remembered closing it. Peering inside, they saw nothing amiss, no one sitting at the piano. But the cold was there, and a sense of sorrow so profound it brought tears to their eyes. That night, they lay awake, listening to the sounds of the house, the creaks and groans of old wood, the whisper of the wind. And occasionally, so faintly it might have been imagination, the sound of a piano key being pressed. They realized then that the Red Lodge was more than a project, more than a dream. It was a mystery, one that had ensnared them with its beauty and its sadness. They were determined to uncover its secrets, to bring light to its dark corners. But as they finally drifted into a restless sleep, they couldn't shake the feeling that the house, in its own way, was alive. And that they were not welcome.